Welcome to Spiritual Sauce, a podcast where we talk to spirit and invite you to join the conversation. We are your
Yes.
hosts,
Valerie Medina.
and Christine Boschen. This is a reaction video to a session in which Christine channels and Valerie asks questions. You can find the original recording and associated reaction videos in the playlist Christine's First Channeling Session. We're here to welcome our listeners to a reaction video. We are reacting to Christine channeling, and the topics for this session are: what is channeling? How to know if it's true? Reacting to channeling and encouraging our listeners to find their own truth. And looking into what is the purpose or mission of humanity on Earth. What is channeling and how to know if it's true?
So what I wanted to say in about this part of the video is that this is not a typical SEH client or experience with SEH. Um, a normal S or a normal, a typical SEH session takes you into a deep meditative state in which I suggest that you connect with your soul guides. And my sitter, my client, is responding to my questions.
Mm-hmm.
Here, Christine, you began connecting with your guides in a typical fashion, what you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
The relaxation techniques that I use just simply helped you get relaxed. So I think we intended originally to make this an SEH session, but because of your gifts, we can't necessarily do that.
Right.
So
So it's
wouldn't
not
you
the
would you
best.
agree?
I would say it's not the best showcase of your skill set because I'm not a typical client, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I probably will never really be able to, unless I were to just watch or observe you with someone else, really understand exactly what is typical, because I guess like you said in a previous conversation, my channel is open most of the time, and
Right.
so
Right.
and so if you're working with someone who the the hypnosis is really helping um, take layers off, right?
Right.
And
And
open.
get you relaxed enough to even connect with your intuitive side, with with your inner wisdom, with your higher self, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Yeah, and the whole point of SEH is to get you very relaxed in order to do that. Here, you're open all the time, and so am I. And
Hmm.
I think that that energy of the two of us together just propels us further faster.
It
So,
does further faster and deeper. So yes,
yeah.
and also I think it should be said, and probably when we edit this, we will have said it a few different places, but it should be said that I was in a pretty goofy mood, like not just channeling goofy information, but in a goofy mood because I was tired. I had been working really long hours the day before, and
Mm,
I think it's useful to mention that it's not a typical it's not even actually a typical channeling session for me either. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I thought it was unusual too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so here I'm thinking that um I was wondering if you'd like to share anything about who it is you're channeling, or your interpretation or understanding of who you're channeling, or
Sure. I
what entity or whatever.
as a channel, it's easier for me when I'm doing medium work to say who I'm channeling, because when we do medium work, we're connecting with souls that are closer to our earthbound experience, whether that person is living still or has passed, or that animal, the beloved pet, for example. So it's easier to identify, uh, this is that person, this is that animal, this is that beloved that I know, um,
Mm-hmm.
or that my client knows, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
easier to say when I'm channeling, as in going up to as high a level of truth and light as I can. it's often a collective, and sometimes members of the collective will step in. And so we had a really fun member of the collective stepping in, right? And we'll get to that
Right.
in a
Yes.
minute or two. But um, it's not always that I can say this is one entity. It's often a we, a team,
Mm-hmm.
like a team of energies.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. And yeah, there was all kinds of little spirits coming in to talk at different times. Yeah,
And
it
did
was
did you
amazing.
did you sense like could you see can you see that? Can you feel that when there's a shift between like we're hearing from one entity or one energetic
Yes.
signature, and then now we're hearing from someone else? You could see that shifting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
And that
Yeah.
and in a sense, it it was hard for me to keep up with a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Because I
you
went,
mentioned
oh, we're going in another way. Okay. So
so
go ahead.
you were tethering me. We you mentioned that this wasn't a typical SEH session, but when I look back at the recording, I see so much attention and space holding in what you're doing. I see that you're very intently with me, even though we're, in two different rooms, about 30 miles away from each other over the internet. Um, Even though we're not in the same room, I can feel that you are very much grounding me, and that does speak to what you do as a SEH practitioner. And in this particular session, you definitely were tethering me. You were grounding the energy. And I don't really have better words to describe it than that, but we both acknowledged that I was really like a kite, right? Like a kite being picked up by this wind and that wind, you know?
Yes, that is exact. That's a very good description of this session. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have the video paused right now at a particular moment. Did you want me to play it? And then did you have something you wanted to comment on?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Or you want me to just go to the times and then you'll
Yeah,
contribute?
yeah, let's do it that way. There's
Okay.
lots of material to mine here, but I love that we're just talking about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Bumbling, stumbliness of it all.
So I suspect you're ready to channel, Christine.
I think we're there. I think we're there.
Yeah, I think we're there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So stop.
Hmm.
Okay. So, I don't know if you wanted to give an introduction of what happens when you channel, Christine. If
Oh
you
my
want to talk a
gosh.
little bit about how it feels to channel
Oh
and what
gosh,
it
that's so
means to you.
interesting. Yeah. Well, it has a lot to do with where I have my attention focused in my thought space. So, I also have a professional job, and when I'm on my way to work in the morning, I may start thinking about that job. And so then my energy and my awareness goes into, well, what's
So
my
that
to-do
way.
list,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yes.
and so if I'm starting to channel, my energy is going in that direction. And so I may have a question on my heart, or maybe my client has asked me to bring in information on a particular question. So then my energy is or my awareness is there on that. And so channeling for me is a form of prayer. And so anybody who prays understands that that is a focus on the divine, um, on the all or the all that is, on the undercurrent of love that connects all of us. And so my attention is in that place. And then thoughts come through. And so it's a little bit like if you are watching television and you've selected the show that you're watching. So you've decided I want to watch this particular show or this particular movie or whatever it is. You've already set your intention and then you are receiving. So you're not the one who's in charge of the information that's coming in, which is different than if you're actively doing something with your brain, like you are actually doing some work, or you are, you're the one that's creating those thoughts. You're receiving them, but you've set your intention on from which channel you want to tune into, I guess is a good way to put it.
Hmm.
So I don't know. That's do you have more questions on that than that?
Um, no, I want to see how you watch how you open up when you channel.
Mm.
I want to listen to you now,
Hmm.
how you go forward with that.
Okay. And before we go on, can I ask you the same question, Valerie, as a fellow channel?
Yes. When I channel, if it, I guess I could, it's as if I am focusing on being open. I set an intention
Hmm.
and I start to hear, feel, sense, and know. And I need to talk quickly. I get I get a lot of energy in my body and it feels good. Like I need to
Mm.
talk.
Hmm.
Like I'm being propelled or encouraged to talk. And um I'm hearing words that I need to say. And so I say them however they come out. And it's my all I can say is that my consciousness kind of Valerie steps back
Mm.
and is kind of in an observant kind of mode. And I
Hmm.
just speak. So I'm just speaking what I hear
I love
out.
how, as you're describing this, you're also using your hands to provide a little bit more information about which chakra is being involved here. You were when you were talking about your speaking, I could see you bringing heart and throat into it, and
Yes,
then
oh,
your
definitely.
third eye.
Yeah,
You said Valerie, step back. So you did this with your hand. So you're giving more information there, right?
yeah, yeah. And when I was hearing you talk about the television,
Hmm.
bringing your attention, to me, if I was to say, it would be like watching television and someone speaking right there out loud,
Hmm.
in the chair across the room from me, and I have to stop and listen to the and answer that person. In other words, this me is going on. That's the television. But this other person is speaking, and I have to turn and pay attention to it and talk to that. So it's a switch of attention.
It's a
That's what
switch
it
of
is.
attention. It's a switch of
Yeah,
attention, and then
yeah.
to allow your physical beingness to convey words, and you are watching the television show, so to speak, to use an analogy, but you're also
Yes.
broadcasting the television show, which is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
You're a receiving and a broadcasting tower all at the same time.
I'm very much in an observant role. Yet, after channeling, I don't remember everything I said.
Me too. Yeah. Which is why it's so fun. And I hope that we do this,
Yeah.
we reverse the roles and we film you channeling and then we get to do a reaction video to you too, because it's such a luxury to be the observer of it rather than the transmitter of it, right?
It is. It is. Yeah. It's amazing. It's like oh, it's like sitting in sacred space.
It
Yeah.
is sitting in sacred space. It
Yeah.
is. And there's something about sitting in sacred space means you can be still and you can. So if you're actively channeling your working, it's actually work. But
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're listening to it, you are sitting in sacred space. That's really fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're in the presence of the guides who are giving you information, is
Yes.
wisdom, passing down wisdom.
Yes. And there, I think also what the one thing I've been reflecting on is I've been thinking about we're going to do this reaction video or series of videos is oh, where did it go? Oh yeah. When we are asking for high level guidance and then we are receiving it, they're going to push our boundaries of comprehension and our boundaries of our current ways of thinking about things and looking at things. So there's a lot to it that at first you'll go, I don't get that. It kind of reminds me of like, I don't know if you know the movie the movies the Anchorman movies. Do you know
Yeah.
those silly movies?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also Step Brother, which was that, anyhow,
Yeah.
like I hated those movies the first time I saw them and I just couldn't get them. But then like every subsequent time that I would watch them, I loved them more and more because the humor Like I got it. And I think channeling is like that too in a more, you know, wisdom kind of a way, right? Like at first it doesn't make sense sometimes, but if you listen to it again and again, you may get more from it. It may just continue to broaden perspective.
Well, and my perspective about what we're doing here with this show in large part is making me feel uncomfortable. So
Mm,
there's a lot of layers there, but and I think that when you channeled, there was information that I didn't understand, and that made me feel uncomfortable because I'm in the spiritual space a lot,
hmm
yet I'm listening to a channel that's providing information to me that I could not necessarily relate to, but I was
hmm
listening to. And so I think now that we're going over the videos and we're looking at how this information came out, I'm in a different frame of mind. And so me hearing the information again goes, oh, I go, oh, okay. I mean, that makes sense.
And you know, I think
Like,
it's also, sorry, go ahead.
no, well, I was gonna say, like in coming up questions or areas of the video, I I point that out that, oh, I get it.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing, Valerie, is that I think it's always really important to be very centered in our own discernment. So, you know, yes, I'm a channel, but I don't always hear it right or get it right, or even the messages, maybe they resonate for some people, are helpful for some people and not for others. And it's really important in listening to channeled information to always be asking oneself, how do I feel about this? How
Right.
does
Does
this
this make
sound?
sense to me?
Is
Does it
and
resonate with me?
does it
You know,
resonate? Right.
or the my barometer often when I hear a truth
Mm,
is I get chills down my spine, down my left shoulder.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's always down the left shoulder. It's never anywhere else in my body.
And so
Um,
you've come to know that, you've come to understand that that's your indication of I need this is for me. This is something for me.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
my tell. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I want to say, like in preface to your reaction and also to anyone else's reaction to these clips, it's all, you know, it's all it's all good. Whether you like it or not, your reaction is important, valid, perfect, correct. And
Hmm.
no two of us are going to have the same reaction,
And
basically.
what I like to say to people too, it's okay if you're not ready to hear this information. Maybe someday you will,
Yeah.
and
Right.
maybe never. It's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that speaks
Oh,
to like that's a different kind of discomfort. Like there one type of
mm-hmm.
discomfort is like, yeah, that's not for me. That's just not for
Right.
me, right? But then it could be like, oh, that's for me, but I'm not ready for it yet, right? I'm
Yeah.
still growing into that. I'm not quite
Right.
there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I often hear about certain things in the spiritual space. Maybe it's about aliens or small grays and tall, I don't know, different alien entities and things like that. And that makes me feel a little uncomfortable, or, you know, when people start talking about that whole, and that's a whole um, genre of spiritual understanding. And
Mhm.
I'm not there yet. So
Mhm.
I usually think, okay, I'll listen to a little bit of it, but then I pull back because I know it's right for me.
Right.
And
Right.
but
Yeah.
but things that make you feel uncomfortable also make you grow.
That's right.
So there's the wisdom in that too.
And part of the process of the growth, as far as I've experienced, is asking oneself, what's my reaction here? And piecing that apart a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, you were talking
Feeling
of
it,
feeling it, feeling it and respecting it and
trusting it. Yeah.
trusting it.
And trusting yourself to make the discernment whether it's right for you, right?
Yes, right. And also I think in the spiritual community, in the community of all of us here on Earth and love each other and have something to do here in regard to both of those things, we don't all
Mm-hmm.
have the same job. So you might take a deep dive into some spiritual realm that I won't because that's not my job. But that doesn't mean it's like one is right or one is wrong.
Right.
It's just that you have some responsibilities and you will be drawn in that direction, and I will have other and perhaps overlapping responsibilities and will be drawn in that direction too. So I think that's also part of it.
I think one of our major soul plans when we incarnate is to let go of self-judgment and judgment of others. So, that's a big part of doing spiritual work. As you grow, you do need to let go of some of the judgment, the 3D judgment that you carry,
Hmm.
in order to grow towards 5D, towards understanding, and towards being able to communicate, do channel work, and do all the things you want to do.
Yeah, letting go of judgment is huge. So
Reacting to channeling and encouraging our listeners.
Oh, this is what I wanted to tell you.
yeah.
I be, so so when I struggled with the answer that the guides were giving us, because I thought it was so esoteric, I thought it was so big, I was grasping. Um, and so I wrote notes about it that so through your channel, the guides were giving, you're getting a mix of your sitter's guides and your guides, right? When you begin
Hmm.
to channel
Hmm.
your, so I think in a sense that when I think of this event that we did, this channeled event, I really think of it as a mix of your guides and my guides really just
For
coming
sure.
together and
Yeah.
giving us this information. So I wanted to say that.
Hmm.
And then um the other thing I wanted to say is that when people are listening to this, I want them to understand that it's okay if they don't understand it. And I think we mentioned it in another way
Yeah.
earlier when we were talking. Um, that it's okay not to understand it. It's okay to come back to it. It's okay to leave it go.
Yep.
Um, whatever you want to do, but that also the guides don't give us anything that we're not ready for. So when the
Yeah.
fact that I'm in a place to ask you these questions means that the people that are going to hear it
Hmm.
will hear it.
Hmm.
It's
Right.
it's meant for whoever it's meant for,
Right.
and that's okay too. So
Right. And so, and whoever it's not meant for, those people will turn off this podcast and listen to something else instead.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and that's okay. Just don't leave mean comments.
Or if you do, you're gonna get this reaction from me. And for those of you
Jay,
that are listening, I'm doing a silly dance.
it's like, oh no.
No, seriously, that we like. I guess this is just a little moment of encouragement to everybody to live your life and let yourself be not liked and
Yeah,
to, be silly or to be unpolished because when you let
yeah,
yourself be those things, you let yourself be. Like your real
yeah,
beingness can come through.
yeah.
Hmm.
And I love the way they started out by saying, keep it simple, Christine.
They did. And then it wasn't simple. That was the funny thing about it, right?
No, it wasn't.
It was so not simple.
All right.
But maybe I was simple. Maybe I was just like, opening my mouth and letting it happen.
Yeah. And that's fine too.
What is the purpose or mission of humanity on Earth?
It's going to think a little bit.
So, Christine, I have some really profound questions, and I hope that your soul and your guides are prepared to answer these questions that I have. Do I
So,
have
so
permission?
Valerie, excuse me to interrupt you, but the
Sure.
guides are interrupting because they're saying, yeah, we get it, Valerie, they're profound, but they're like, but Christine is channeling our response to that right now. That is the response.
Okay, let's do it. Let's
Profound it
do it.
is. Let's go for it. You said play, let's
Okay.
play. All right, there
Okay.
we go.
What is the purpose or mission of humanity on Earth?
This is something that we cannot give you the answer to this question because it is for you to explore and experience in an embodied way. And in fact, this is exactly the answer to your question. There is meant to be a mystery involved here, and there's meant to be a spiritual practice involved here, and that spiritual practice is meant to involve listening deep within and seeking community. And for that, we would like to applaud and remind you that your spiritual traditions have deep meaning, particularly in the places of worship where you have been practicing over time, and the hallowed ground that is sacred. And so we were invoking the memory of the corn and the blessing of the corn and the blessing of the waters and the blessing of the soil and of the land and of the cactus, the cacti, and of the peoples. For you are all holy and sacred. Each one of you are coming from sacred indigenous places. And so it is as you have journeyed through your many lifetimes of incarnation on this planet that you will be able to experience different places and peoples and nature of things. And yet there is always this inner wisdom that calls you forward and calls you backward home simultaneously. And it is this interesting dichotomy of the concept of time being linear, forward and backward, when it is all still now time and now being on a round planet. And do you see how this is very interesting to be living on a round planet with a linear concept of time? And so we draw you backwards through your most ancient traditions as you find your path of healing includes weaving backward into time to collect all of the missing pieces and the links that need to be rewoven. And Christine will talk more about that some other time. She has been playing with these threads of ideas for a while in her own internal practice. So we send you backwards to your ancestors, and Christine is being given the image of a church in Eastern Germany that was wood. It was all wooden, and she had a recognition on a DNA level of being there back in time with her ancestry, the Boschen lineage, being from Germany, and she could feel herself in these places. And Valerie, for you, Christine is bringing forward the corn goddess so that you may remember and feel yourself in those places. And it is such that we remember our ancestors and that we bring them forward to us into the present day through our healing practices, which is both a matter of remembering and projecting into the future. And to remember the future is a similar experience to remembering the past. It is a way of connecting forward and backward in time with the human spirit, the humanity, for you are all one traveling together across many lifetimes and through many experiences. And have we lost the thread of the question, or is that sufficient, Miss Valerie?
Okay, I think that. Okay. So Christine,
So Valerie,
you wanna break that down for us a little bit?
oh my gosh. Well, okay, so let's start
Uh,
with
s-
some basics.
simplify. Yeah, let's simplify that,
So some basics. We live multiple lives.
right?
They're acknowledging that. They're acknowledging that our experience of time is not actually the full reality of what time is. So we say, like at one point, you and I were both 5 years old. We say that's in the past, right? We're no longer
Right,
five. We're older than that. So
right.
we say there's a certain direction we're always traveling, and it's always from birth to death, right? So there's that
Yeah,
arc. And then so they're saying it's not actually that. There's this eternal now moment, and I think we can wrap our brain around that a little bit, right? Because we're always
yes,
now, although our thoughts
yeah.
may be traveling to the future or to the past or to whatever we're worried about or preoccupied with. So I think they're saying those two things. There are more than one life. We're all in this together. I heard that. We're all in
Yes.
this together.
It's a collective oneness.
Yeah, there's a collective oneness. So they talked about the individual experience, but also the community. They said it's important to have community. They talked about blessings and blessing the corn, which you could expand that to say blessing the harvest, blessing the food source. They talked about cactus, and I was wondering, Valerie, if they were talking about peyote when they talked about cactus. And peyote being a sacred ceremonial plant for some native peoples in Central America, perhaps, or or Southern North America. So that was just something that I was wondering if that was what they were talking about, the sacred traditions of spiritual journey by use
Yeah.
of
I know
psychoactive.
that the first time I heard it, that's what I thought of.
I think that
Yeah.
may have been what they were talking about. So there's also the recognition that we all have ancestral roots that are of earlier peoples that were very earth-based, right?
Yes.
All of us. There's not one group of us that were like, no, we've always been computerized. We've always had Zoom. We've always had a telephone. There's not a single one of us on this planet that doesn't come from a hunter-gatherer and early agrarian tradition, right? And that those traditions would be very aware of the cycles of Earth, of the rains, of the snows, of the droughts, of the summers and the winters and the falls and the springs, the stars, cycles of the moon, the cycles of the tides. Like this would have been universal to all of our our ancestors.
Our experiences. Yeah.
So there's
And,
a th-
excuse me. Go ahead. Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
so there's a connection. So we asked, the question was, what is the purpose or mission of humanity on Earth? And boy, did we see like a it felt like they went really far away from that. But if we say
I yeah.
maybe if we say no, they didn't. If we say they exactly answered our question, then we can start to say, well, oh, okay. Maybe I'm supposed to connect with my ancestors. Maybe I'm supposed to be a bridge between my ancestors and those that come after me.
Hmm.
Maybe that's my job as a human being, to be in community, to be connected to my ancestors, and to be connected to those that come after me. And
Yes.
then, but they also started by saying, we can't really answer this question for you because this is for you to experience and figure out. But we're going
Right.
to give you a map, right? We're going to give you a general lay of the land. But I mean, that's another thing that guides won't do. A high level guide will never tell you what you are meant to learn and experience on your own. They will not
Right.
take your lessons away from you is another way that I've heard that
Yeah.
explained.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So they're like,
Thank you.
you asked us to take a lesson away. We're not going to take your lesson away, but we'll give you some
No.
mysterious answer that will point you in the right direction, right?
Right. Right. Well, a mysterious answer that will allow you to apply it to your life the way you see fit.
Yes, right. So
Right.
I could take something from this that is the Christine answer, but then
Right.
Valerie, what did you take from it?
Well, for me, there were what we talked about the collective, about love, about ancestors. Then a part of me was thinking, well, ancestors, okay, but we've lived multiple lives, but it still applies to a 3D world.
Mm-hmm,
Even if you've lived multiple lives, you're still living those lives uh 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 out into the future and closer to the past, or excuse me, closer to the earth, the indigenous
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
peoples.
mm-hmm,
So yes, you're still having that experience too, and it's all layered.
mm-hmm,
I At the time you were saying it, I was confused by the answer. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, it's going way out there. I don't understand. I had to watch it again. and I
Hmm.
had to listen again. And then there were little bits that I started to understand and started to put together and go, oh, oh. So I think that this channeling, this experience of your channel giving us information is going to be unique to everyone.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that's the wonderful thing about it. And maybe that's why they went so far afield, because many different people with many different experiences are going to be listening to this.
For
Um,
sure. Yeah, because
you know,
it was a universal question you asked, right?
yes,
What is the
yes,
purpose or mission of humanity? So that's
right.
all,
It was
however
a
many
big
8 billion
question.
of us, right, on
Yeah,
Earth, our home base. And so it's a big question. You and I are hoping that we get a listenership. So there's going to be lots of people that are imbibing this, eating this, taking it in. I'm just trying to think of the right word for that, taking it in. And
yeah.
and so they had to be
Consuming it,
consuming it. They had to
right?
be they had to be mysterious and also general in the answer so that it could speak to, like you were mentioning, like the little parts of it, right? Like, oh, that's a part for Valerie. Like I'll grab that and integrate that, or that's a part for Christine. I'll grab that and integrate that. And so for everybody who's
The
listening, right?
idea, the idea of going to the church, though,
Mm.
what do you think that I see that as a foundational, some type of foundational element, something that
So I went on a
all people
vacation.
relate to?
My husband and I went on a vacation in 2017 to Eastern Europe.
Hmm.
And it was a bus tour where they took us across different countrysides and would stop at various different places. And
Towns,
one of the places was this church in Germany. I forget which part of Germany. I don't even remember which part. And it was wooden, and it was an old church, and it was an
hmm,
unusual structure because like a lot of churches that are old are stone, and that's why they're still here, right?
right,
Because
right.
they can last through the centuries. This one was wood. And they were taking me to that particular church and saying, this place resonates for you because you have ancestral lineage from this part of the world. And so it really could
So
have been,
you felt that visceral kind of connection to that place,
yeah.
and
And
it felt good,
it felt, I'm trying to remember how I
like you
felt about
knew,
that
like
place. You
not
know what?
good,
I'm
but rather like familiar.
familiar. And also, the interesting thing for me, Valerie, is that specific memory. Like, I remember that church and the stained glass windows in that church, and I remember being annoyed specifically because it was the
Hmm.
part of Christianity that was very dictatorial about, like, believe this. We're going to tell you,
Hmm.
like, these stained glass windows are the stories of the Bible for all of you who don't know how to read,
Right? Yeah.
right? And so we're going to explain to you the stories pictorially, and this is also a part of explaining to you what is truth, right? And
Right.
so that particular image for me was speaking to the part of the soul's journey, of the collective soul's journey that we go through when religion is fed to us and we take it without deciding for ourselves what is true and what we'd actually say no thank you, right? We just take
Hmm.
it all in. It's all
Because
given to us,
because because we are told we are ignorant and cannot make those decisions for ourselves.
right?
I mean, that kind of is drilled into us, and that's religion.
Right.
They're telling us what we're supposed to know. That is the nature of religion. Organized religion, unfortunately.
And so to ask you a similar question, so that was the image that they gave me, right? And so they gave you an image of the corn goddess and the blessing of the corn and the blessing of the people and the blessing of the soil. How did that feel?
That felt very familiar to me
Mm,
because I'm very familiar with the corn goddess, Tonantzin, and the different uh, um, Mexica images. So that felt very comfortable, and it's like I knew why they were doing it, why they
mm,
were giving that information so that I could relate.
Hmm.
But it, in a way, I went, I, I felt a little jaded. I felt a little like, oh, come on.
So
They,
it was a
how did
similar
they know that?
reaction.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
was
yeah. Oh,
kind of like, like we both had a similar reaction to that religious or that culturally religious,
relevant. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a culturally familiar and relevant images that they gave us. Um,
but a little
and
jaded.
so, but I felt a little like, oh, come on, you guys, you can see me.
Like give me something that's even a little bit more interesting than that. That was too basic almost. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's kind of what I thought. That's kind of what I
yeah,
thought when that came out. That was funny.
interesting. Yeah, yeah. So okay, we have a new layer now. The new layer is um the human experience is not all profound. Some of it's actually rather trite, you know,
Yeah.
and tired almost. Not that the corn goddess is trite and tired whatsoever,
No,
but or even
no.
that the church in Germany is trite and tired, but there's as we move through our experiences, we sort through them, right?
Yes, yes. You're right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about that particular clip?
No, no. I think that now, I remember thinking at the time that when the guys were talking and answering, I thought, oh my God, already I don't understand what they're saying.
And I
And
don't know that we have to understand everything that they said, right?
no, 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 no. You just kind
Yeah.
of take it in, and I don't know. It's a blessing to be in their presence, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, you were mentioning that like some of it stretches us. There's definitely stretching that happens for me around the concept of time, for sure. Like
Oh,
I
definitely trying to understand time the way they explain it. Yeah, there is
yeah.
no time. I mean, they're just like they just totally burst our bubble about how we think about time, and so that's a constant struggle, not necessarily struggle, but challenge to, okay, I got to throw that concept out before and after.
Or even just
I
become comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Like
Yes,
I can't even pretend that I get it, and I'm okay with that. I know that there's something beyond my perception of reality that is more real or more complete, and I just have to be okay with that.
yeah.
Thank you for joining us. We're glad you're here, and we hope you stick around.
Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and react. React. Suggest other topics and join the conversation.
Yeah.